I believe Chicago is neighborly.
I believe Chicago is a mosaic.
I believe Chicago is constantly evolving.
I believe Chicago is a place I'm proud to raise my family.
Chicago es una ciudad que trabaja muy duro y tiene mucha humildad.
I believe Chicago has some of the best academic institutions in the world.
I believe Chicago is hopeful.
I believe Chicago is still a place of possibilities.
We believe in a Chicago that is vibrant, equitable, and inclusive.
Chicago Public Media believes in the power of independent journalism to strengthen our local communities and our democracy.
And that means making sure that the work we do is human-centered, that it is solutions-oriented, that we are trying to improve people's lives.
Thank you so much for supporting local journalism, for supporting your communities, and for also helping to keep yourself informed, which is more important than ever today.
Together we can bring new voices to the table.
We can come together around cultural institutions.
Together, we can collaborate across communities.
Together, we can look up to the sky.
Juntos, podemos respetar nuestras diferencias para hacer esta ciudad bien linda.
Together, we can tell powerful stories, uncover truths, and affect lives.
Together, we can support a free, fair media in the city of Chicago.
I am Tracy Brown. I'm the Chief Content Officer here at Chicago Public Media, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this evening's program in this beautiful, renovated studio core for those of you who are here in person. For those of you that are joining us online, I do hope that you'll get the opportunity to join us at some point. So tonight's conversation is going to offer a behind-the-scenes look at the work that we do here at Chicago Public Media to cover the Democratic National Convention. This evening is a special gathering. It's an opportunity for us to say thank you to our valued members and supporters, and it's an opportunity for us to just allow you again to see the work that we do behind the scenes. It's your commitment to Chicago Sun-Times and WBEZ that it is key to our mission and to deliver independent and local journalism. And we can't thank you enough for joining us this evening and supporting, for providing ongoing support and enabling the work that we do here tonight. So tonight, you're gonna again have a unique opportunity to gain an insider's perspective on how national conventions are covered. And if you're like me, you're pretty excited. I've been around for a long time, but I'm really looking forward to being in a city where National Convention is actually hosted. So you're gonna hear directly from those who are at the forefront of the action, and you'll get a glimpse into how the teams are gonna approach the task of delivering comprehensive and impactful coverage of the Democratic National Convention next week. So I'm gonna introduce you to our panel. First, we're honored to have Lynn, who is our Washington Bureau Chief at the Chicago Sun-Times. Lynn is gonna be moderating the discussion tonight. Joining her will be an exceptional panel of Sun-Times and WBEZ reporters and journalists. To Lynn's right is Tina Spondelis, who is the chief political reporter. Next to Tina is City Hall reporter Tessa Weinberg. Next to Tessa is Natalie Moore. Had to make sure I was getting my order right. Next to is Natalie Moore, who is editor and columnist. And then we have Tom Schuba, who is editor and reporter. And then last but not least is Ashley Resin, who is photo editor and photographer. So they're gonna give you, again, behind the scenes glimpse at some of the work that they do and to show you like where how all the action happens, and then share with you some of their strategies of covering this historic event. We're gonna be live streaming this conversation, so for the supporters who are joining us virtually, thank you. We're thrilled to have you with us, and we encourage you to participate by submitting your questions in the chat. Make sure, so when you submit make sure, that you put your questions in the chat, and then we'll address as many of them as possible during the panel discussion. One thing I want to add is that remember that as a nonprofit newsroom, all of our coverage from the reporting that happens on helping you to navigate your Friday nights to giving you much needed and important information to help inform you at the ballot box. All of that is made possible by the generosity of the people who support us like you, those of you who are in this room, but also those of you who are joining us online. So, and I'll add that if you feel so inspired to make an additional donation for the work that we do, we thank you in advance. So for those of you who are here with us tonight, don't miss the chance after this to mingle with some of our panelists and get to know them a little bit better. It's also an opportunity to just continue the conversation and to connect with the journalists who bring you the news that you have come to rely on. We thank you again for your incredible support, and we're glad that you're here and hope that, that you will enjoy this insightful preview of the Democratic National Convention coverage. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Tracy. And hello, everybody in our audience in the studio at Navy Pier. And hello to everybody out there, the hundreds of you who are listening, where we're going to go over tonight, and for those who watch later on the live stream, everything that we know that could help you understand the Democratic Convention in Chicago, what's going on inside the United Center in McCormick Place, and outside. And let me just remind you that those of you here, you have cards on your seat to write down questions for us. Those of you listening on the live stream, put your questions in the chat. So let me just set this up a little bit about what's going on in our conversation tonight so you can have an idea of what we're going to do in this conversation. So Ashley, Tina, and I have just finished covering the convention in Milwaukee, and we could talk about that either in your questions or we'll get around to it. But one of the reasons it's important to think about this Chicago convention is that it has an impact on people who care about politics, but are going to be massively inconvenienced perhaps, and people who just want to know about what kind of security issues the city may be facing. So we'll get to all of that, and I thought the best way to start us out, Tom Schuba, you have done a lot of reporting on security concerns. Give us a quick overview before we go inside the convention center. Give us the outside look on what you've been looking at.
Well, Lynn, thank you very much for having me. Obviously, there is a lot of history in Chicago when it comes to protesting, and etched in many people's minds was the Chicago Police Department's response to 1968. So much of my reporting has focused on how the police department is preparing for the Democratic Convention. We're expecting to see tens of thousands of protesters this year, and there have been concerns since the DNC was announced about how the police will respond to that. So it's still a bit of a question mark, obviously, and I think is front of mind for most people in this room. I'm getting notes as I go. But yeah, any other specific questions, Lynn?
Okay, so basically, you've been dealing with Secret Service, Chicago Police Department. Tell us very briefly about the security perimeters. That as we're talking, it's Thursday night. There are, and if some of you haven't experienced yet, if you're near the convention itself, the footprint of the convention is around the United Center and around McCormick Place, because that's where the official events will be held. In the evening at United Center, the big speeches, Obama, Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden on Monday. To get into these areas, you can't unless you have credentials. But for the public, Tom, do you think that there is, well, let me put it this way. The Secret Service handles the security inside. What does the police department do on the outside?
Yeah, so the Secret Service covers the two main convention sites, the United Center, which is where you'll hear all of these former presidents and the vice president speak, and then at McCormick Place, where a lot of the party business is done. Outside of that, it's the Chicago Police Department's jurisdiction. So that will be, the two largest expected protests will go from Union Park to within, quote, sight and sound of the United Center. That will be the police department's job to monitor that. At the same time, they have enlisted around 500 other police officers from other jurisdictions, mostly across the state, but some from Milwaukee, where CPD sent officers for the RNC already. So that's kind of the lowdown
on it. Thank you. So one of the things that we have done already, Ashley and I have already been inside the United Center, and if it was as we speak, we have 15 minutes until we could actually tell you where the Illinois delegation will be located because it's under embargo, but we have done some reconnaissance. So one of the reasons I thought Ashley would be terrific on the panel is that there is planning and legwork you have to do to get the shot. So give us the recon report of what you'll be shooting in the United Center and tell everybody, kind of take us into your shoes and what you looked at in your walkthrough.
Great, yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you for having me, Lynn. I'm happy to be here and share this with you all. So it was really important for me to do a walkthrough very early on because we have 3 photographers that are going to be on the ground during the convention, and we lean on the wires such as the Associated Press and Getty to supplement. Because we are local, we can focus on the Illinois delegates, we can focus on storytelling for Illinoisans and Chicagoans in a way that a lot of the national outlets are just not going to prioritize. They're not going to focus on the little people, right? But we have the luxury of doing that because we're the local paper, right? So we're going to have 3 photographers roaming on the floor, and the wires are going to have photographers stationed on risers and elevated places around the convention. So they're going to be focusing on the people that are speaking at the podium, and they'll be getting the very clean, very classic, perfect shots of, former President Barack Obama, for example, speaking during the convention. And we'll get photos like that as well, of course, on the floor, but we can also focus on a particular Illinois delegate who's never heard, former President Obama speak before, who maybe might get emotional or something, right? Then somebody who's wearing a beautiful outfit that's very individualistic.
Right.
We can do a lot more.
The only reason we're going to get that shot is because of all the work we've done to have the access.
Yes, so I walked around with Lynn and
Yes.
saw where the wires were going to be positioned and was able to strategize, okay, we'll be roaming on the floor, here's where the Illinois delegation will be, and then also to make print deadline and to get photos out very quickly, we have to know where we can, jet off to get on our computers real quick and send photos to the desk so that they can make it in the paper the next day, right? So a lot of the logistics about where are we going to edit? Where's our power source? Where are we going to have Wi-Fi?
Everybody, here it is. We have done this great work. She has the photo of a lifetime. If you can't get it out, and wireless access is crucial. We're going to be in arenas where everybody is using wireless. So what we have done at the Sun-Times is we have, what is the high speed that we bought to get your photo out?
Oh, I don't.
Yes, or whatever is the access. Yeah. But the point is, we already have a place set up that you went and checked out to make sure that we have wireless in a place with a landline connection.
Mm-hmm. We have an Ethernet cable.
Because we cannot depend. I just used the word wireless, but it actually is a plain old line to plug into a computer just to make sure we could get it out. And we're going to get into, in a few moments, with some of we're going to show you, so stay tuned, everybody, 3 wonderful photos that Ashley took at the Republican convention, and she's going to tell you the story behind those pictures, but stay tuned, we'll be there in a minute. One of the things that makes this convention so special is that we just had a switcheroo. Biden out, Harris in. This is my 17th convention, and this is the first one I've covered, as every one of the other 15,000 reporters who had a presidential candidate who only has been in that business a few weeks. Usually presidential acceptance speeches are worked on for months. Now it's just a matter of days. Let me tell you, sometimes it's easier to write a big story on deadline than have 1,000,000 weeks to work on it. So the speech may be just as good. But we now have history in the city and the state that spawned the nation's first black president. We now are hosting a convention that may spawn the nation's second. We also have seen a party go from the doldrums to exuberance. And the vibe is not only something that has impacted the party, but perhaps has impacted our city too. So no one else better to talk to about explaining what you think the way forward is in the next few weeks is Natalie. So give us a big picture and then a little picture of what's going on here.
So obviously there's a lot of enthusiasm nationally. We've heard about all these calls, whether it's comedians for Kamala, black women for Kamala, cats for Kamala, like all sorts of things. And so locally, what that has looked like is also a renewed energy. Kamala Harris is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, whose international headquarters are right here in Chicago on Stony Island. On Thursday night during her speech, I'm gonna send a reporter out to a watch party in the South Loop near McCormick that is sponsored by AKAs. The Divine Nine is the name of all the black fraternities and sororities, so they've had their call too, but there are lots of chapters and members in Chicago, and they have been organizing, getting their kids to register to vote when they go to college. They're starting that now. And other black organizations are just doing various things, whether it's fundraising, parties, just within the spirit of this historic moment. So that's a big thing. And yes, the mood has gone from, I think someone called it from a wake to a wedding. I think we should expect a lot of people coming in town just because they're nosy and they want to be around for this historic moment. I expect to see, just like with Obama, a whole bunch of bootleg vendors out on the street outside of the perimeter selling, the first, female president, whatever that, language is. So I think that we'll see some, underground economy entrepreneurship, as well as seeing people who just want to be in the room with their chucks and pearls on to witness this moment.
I didn't think, when I covered Obama in 2008, I thought this was a one-off, that it was a kind of a hope and change, a political environment that was for him only, because you can't just bottle that up and have your campaign. I'm going to run for office, and I think hope and change will be my theme. It doesn't work like that. You have to have this sauce, this intersection of personality, politics, and policy to ignite things. I didn't think it was possible again. And then here it is, a candidate who people underestimated now is at least even, or in the swing states, perhaps even plus, with the Republican nominee, President Trump. So Tina, we were at the Republican convention, and one of the things we were not worried about every night is who the big speakers would be, because it's not going to be like in Chicago where it's like, gee, should I write about Monday night about Hillary Clinton or should I write about Joe Biden? Tuesday, should I write about Obama? I mean, we are just, what a contrast. Can you speak about that contrast between these conventions?
Yes, I was just telling Tessa earlier that Lee Greenwood sang Proud to be an American like 3 times live at that show, at the convention. So I don't think we're gonna see that. I think we're actually gonna see big time speakers. There was also a lot of repetitive videos, like there was a Trump dancing video and there was the YMCA. Maybe we'll do some sort of dance for the Democrats, but it was very repetitive, and I think that they're gonna try to draw a really strong contrast of we have celebrities, we have all this support, We have the money now. We've been producing this for months and months. And to what Lynn said about just how things have changed, there was like a fear feeling at the Republican convention. And I think there was a fear for both Democrats and Republicans of what's going to happen. And we went to the convention one day after Trump was shot. So it was a lot of things going on. And so things have kind of evened out a little bit. So I think we're going to see more of the traditional Democratic show. I think we'll see some really good performances, maybe Beyonce on Thursday. I'm excited to see that.
Now, everybody who's listening, this is like, I have no facts to tell you this. And we are fact-based journalists. So I know, is it Taylor Swift or Beyonce?
No, Taylor.
I don't know.
It's not going to be Taylor.
None of this is
Taylor's
confirmed.
busy right now.
She's busy?
Yeah.
But one of the thoughts in 2016 is that on the Hillary Clinton nights, it was, I thought I was at Hillary La Posa because there are so many Hillary stars.
Katy Perry sang.
Yes.
Paul Simon.
It was amazing. But maybe it was too much. So I think there might be a recalibration now that Hollywood is re-engaged on this. But there's another, so I believe there will be celebrities. There'll be very slick production packages. And on Tuesday night in the roll call, we all know that Harris is already nominated, but there's going to be a whatever symbolic nomination. But this convention has particular importance for our governor and our mayor. Governor Pritzker is a presidential candidate in the year, fill in the blank. He helped bring the convention here. He's raised a lot of money. But this also is a showcase for the rookie Mayor Johnson, who did not get the ball rolling. That was former Mayor Lightfoot. But it was not for him to start the work, but I guess it was for him to finish it. He's got a packed schedule going around and around. And Tessa, you have done reporting on the mayor going into this convention. Tell us what we should know.
Yeah, it was, about a year ago that they were announcing Chicago as the host city. We were at the Shedd Aquarium, and Mayor Johnson was still just mayor-elect. So he's really only had a year to fill his big shoes and get ready for this moment. Like Lynn said, for this convention, he really inherited. And he will really be the city's cheerleader-in-chief during this moment. But he has these kind of dual roles of having to, show off the city, show it's a great place, have the skyline on the national stage, but also make sure the city is still running. And he's walking this really political tightrope as he does it. Protesters have filed federal lawsuits to march closer and to get protest routes they want. And some of them are, progressive folks who maybe would have been allies of the mayor who have said, we shouldn't have to sue to get the routes we want. And Johnson himself is a former progressive organizer, and he's aware of this dynamic, that he's going to be closely watched of how police respond to protests, how they respect First Amendment rights. And he said, he thinks it's ironic people think he's going to be too friendly to protesters, but that as someone who's led protests himself, that he's going to respect that right. And so I think all eyes will definitely be on him for how the city looks on a world stage, but also for residents of wanting to see how they can get around. Will the city be a mess? And he's going to, rightly or not, be held accountable for that probably at the end of the day.
And for those of you who want to tune in, his speech will be about 6 p.m. on Monday, a welcome speech. But his big challenge, I think, is to give a speech that he wants to shine on, and what if there are protests happening in the seats? So I think there is a potential here of some split screen coverage depending on what happens. But for so much of this convention, it is Pritzker putting himself out in a way you never have in terms of trying to what, Tina? Please explain.
He's trying to do many things. He wants a political future. He wants to be kind of like the popular kid. He wants to host parties. He wants to meet people. He wants to do a really good speech on Tuesday night. I wrote a story last week about how he loves to throw parties with First Lady MK. And there is a John Legend concert at the Salt Shed that's invite only. So he has invited some local reporters, which I think is nice. So there's a little bit of access there. I have seen a lot of access to him in this. I have an interview with him tomorrow. They are super prioritizing local reporters because they know that thousands and thousands of national reporters are coming, but they want to make sure that we also have access as well.
On it. So now, Ashley, You took some remarkable photos at the Republican convention, and I want you to tell us, as Tom is so kind to hold it up, how did you get the shots, and which one? Are we starting with the big one? So what you see in the audience and for the people at home is kind of an iconic shot of a convention hall. You will see a version of this. So actually, if it's after, it's 6:30, the embargo's off, I can now report that Illinois has a very good position in the United Center up front under the Illinois poll. Please check the Sun-Times at suntimes.com because we're going to have great photos up there and you could see where Illinois is sitting. But now that the embargo's off, you're the first to hear the news that we have a good seat. Now, because we're the home state, that's why. We were in the way back in Republicans in Milwaukee. So anyway, tell us what it took to get that shot, because you're going to do a version of that, right, in United Center?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
This was...
So tell us the story.
My van and white here. Thank you, Tom. So yeah, this, they asked me to choose 3 photos to like show off, work during the RNC. So I chose this wide image of the whole convention because, first of all, the digital darkroom is like way tucked in the corner down here, and we were walking around on the floor down here. So to get all the way up to the 300 level, we had to walk all the way up to the 300 level and also navigate through all the people and get all the way up there. And it was a slog, but I was pretty happy with it. I think it's an important type of photo where you get the whole scene, right?
What kind of lens do you use to get all that, all of it in one shot, though?
This one probably would have been on my 24 millimeter. I don't know if we have any photographers in the group. My usual kit is a 24 to 70, which is right here. And then a 70-200 on my other arm, which is a little bit longer. Peyton's shooting on one right now over there. And then I also had a 100 to 400 on me that day. So I think I probably took the long lens and also got some like views of the people on the floor. The Illinois delegation, I believe, is right in here somewhere. Yep, right there. So I probably got some tighter stuff from this vantage point of the Illinois delegation. But it's an important scene-setting photo to just not easy to navigate to, right? You want to get that photo, you have to walk far to get that photo. you have to be committed. And also knowing that you're probably going to miss some other things while you're making that trek, right? Like it's constantly the choice of...
This is where planning comes in, because if we had just walked in there in Milwaukee for the first time, you would waste time, you wouldn't know where to go. I got to Milwaukee on the Saturday before I got their credentials. I did a walkthrough so that when the team came on Sunday, I could lead them on a walkthrough so you know where to go, because I cannot tell you how confusing it is. This isn't just like going to a Bulls game or a concert. It's just different in security issues. Next photo. What's the story?
The next, nope, this one. Here we go. So this was on day 3 of the convention. Day 1, this is the first time we're seeing Trump post-assassination attempt. So my colleague Anthony and I were on the floor, and we both chose very strategic positions to get like a very clean, very straightforward. Here's the photo of him. He raises his fist. Here's the bandage. Day 2, we did the same thing again because it's still early on. We still don't know what to expect. We're still getting the lay of the land. By day 3, it's like, okay, well, we've got that nice clean shot. Now we have a little bit more freedom where we can experiment a little bit and play a little bit. And so each day when he walked into the convention, he would do like a slow walk, very like Armageddon astronauts style, with a, this is the pool photographer with a light. So I put myself in a position, and he would walk a line of supporters and delegates and shake hands and talk to them as he's and thank them as he walks up to the.
So how close were you to get that?
Close, but so. I thought, how great would it be if I could get him while he's doing that slow Armageddon walk? I just have to roll the dice, though, because if the crowds don't part a certain way, I won't get it, right? If Secret Service is stays right at my 12 o'clock the entire time because I'm sandwiched in between all the supporters and Secret Service and delegates. And so like I can't quickly move, right? Like I'm where I am. But luckily the crowds did part and I was really happy with it.
And the next shot, because we also covered the protests that were happening in Milwaukee. Tell us about, talk about having all the elements in place there, including, well, you tell the story and how you got that shot.
Yeah, I mean, we're always on the lookout for somebody who's doing something extraordinary, right? This person's dressed as Joker, and that's catches your eye, obviously. You know, the way he was walking and the Trump poster behind him, it was just, you know, just like when the crowds parted, as such, while Trump was walking into the convention, sometimes the stars just align and you find yourself in the right place at the right time. This person was walking past that poster dressed as Joker. Luckily, the protests during the RNC Milwaukee were pretty calm, so it allowed a lot of freedom to be able to make frames like this that are, you know, more quiet, but maybe more impactful, where they tell the story without, you know, without having to scream it.
So we've done a lot of preparation at the Sun-Times and WBEZ for what's going on inside and outside. And Tom, we have kits that some reporters, not me because I'm going to probably be on the inside, tell us a little bit, and he's going to do a reveal. Why? Because that's how we roll. So Tom, bring that bag back to your seat and show everybody what the outside reporters will have. And we do this because we just don't know what will happen. And it could be nothing, it could be something. So Tom, show us what's in the kit.
So first of all, we have a bulletproof vest. Just to preface this by saying, I think everyone in this room on this dais has probably been covering a protest in Chicago that's gotten dicey, and that could be, you know, people throwing projectiles or, you know, clashes between protesters and police violence. So Chicago Public Media was nice enough to get us some personal protective equipment for the DNC. We have had these sorts of vests in the past. Ashley and I both started, Tina as well too, right? As overnight crime reporters. So we would have vests and wear them to the scenes. But so this is one thing that we have here. The next, which I didn't know the name of this. I said it looks like a hat Eminem would wear, but it's called the bump cap. And you know, if somebody tosses a rock or something and it hits your noggin, that's going to help you out.
So it's reinforced?
It's got hard plastic inside of it that you can take out. Yeah. If anybody wants to test it out after, we'll go to the parking lot.
Okay, what else is in the bag?
Okay, so we got a respirator. And this will serve two purposes because we are in the middle of a COVID surge right now. This is a respirator. There has been some concerns raised about the use of tear gas by the police department, by the Inspector General, and by advocacy groups. So we're watching out for that.
So back in my day, we just had a bandana that we dipped in water. Please go on.
I do not see any bandanas in here, but we got some nice goggles. And then there's even this thing in this box here. It's like a big shield for your face. Yeah. See, it would just look cool to wear, too. And
so that's the go bag.
That's what we got.
First aid kit with, I'm sure there's a tourniquet. Thank you.
Tourniquet. Most important, there is a notebook, a reporter's notebook in there. That's number one.
Interesting.
Back to you, Lynn.
Thanks, Natalie. Could you tell us what your life experience or reportage have done for the people who might be living around either McCormick Place or the United Center? And let me explain, by the way, during the day at McCormick Place, There are going to be, by the time the week is through, hundreds of meetings of Democratic special interest group, constituency groups. There's also a Democratic fair. This is where the public is encouraged to come in and we'll have some access. It also means that McCormick Place has a big security perimeter on it. The hotels there, the Hyatt and the Marriott, are two of the headquarter hotels. So what's it like?
I would say just stay out of the South Loop and the near West Side if you don't have any business over there. You won't be able to park. You won't be able to get around. There will be lots of police and security. So I think that's the main thing. But if I can add one more element to the PPE, you know, we have been talking about planning and meeting about the DNC for months so that we can bring great coverage and have lots of different story ideas. But we also have talked about, in addition to the physical protection, I guess the mental protection too from the police. And so we have had outside counsel. Well, we've had training for the International Women's Media Foundation did training for covering protests, and then we had outside counsel come in about Know Your Rights. So in addition to everything in that kit, reporters will have, they are instructed to call the lawyer first before they call their editor if they get arrested, and also how to talk to the police because, you know, things can go left, not just with the protesters, but how the press corps is treated.
And I have my card here. So here's what I said. I am a BEZ Sun-Times reporter. I do not consent to my bag being searched. I don't consent to giving you access to my phone or recorder. And am I free to leave or am I being detained? Then there are some other things. But on a serious note, I have this in my pocket, though, you know, for what I'm doing, I mean, here's the point. I think I'm not going to be caught up in something, but God, I know from experience, you never know what happens where you are. Which brings me to, Tessa, going back to this, I know this is your first convention, my 17th that I've covered, counting the two that were virtual in 2020. As somebody who is looking for stories with your first impressions and given the historic nature of this convention, that has enormous local and national implications, where do you think you're going to be looking for what you could do best, want to tell a story or analyze or find a scoop?
Yeah, I think like was mentioned earlier, there's expected 15,000 journalists that'll be coming to cover this. So it's going to be a sea of reporters. And so I think where we're really trying to stand out is finding those unique local angles and the things that Chicagoans and residents will care about that maybe the national media would overlook, or maybe an unscripted moment that's not broadcast, on TV. I was to prepare, reading some of the old convention coverage from prior conventions. I think it was 2008, where it was Congressman Jackson Jr., who was starting a kind of group hug that was going on, and he said, it's time to reconcile, started to go down the line and hug all his, the other elected officials who he had beef with. And then it ended with Madigan and Blagojevich also hugging. And it was just one of those moments where, you wouldn't expect.
We dined out on that one. Boy.
Yeah, and so, moments like that are maybe unscripted or just kind of surreal stunts that local Chicago readers would definitely be interested in.
So I want to point out, a lot of reporters, as you know, I'm based in Washington, but I do work and have friendships with a lot of regional reporters. Everybody of the 15,000, many people are covering their delegations because that's the importance of local news you cannot get anywhere else. My friends who are covering, for papers all across America who are still, who are sending people here, they're all there with their main mission to tell their local stories, because these conventions are also Super Bowl of your elected officials. Where the Republicans, when we were in Milwaukee, are here. But you just gave me a flashback. The year is 2000. Democrats, Burbank, California. Our big local story was some snit over who's going to announce the roll call. The great state of Illinois, the land of Lincoln, the home of prairie architecture, the home of deep dish pizza, and of course Italian beef, cast its 176 votes. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll know who casts, who's going to do it. There may be a gimmick involved, by the way, in the roll call. But I'm involved and whoever else. Luis Gutierrez, then a congressman, had some issue with how they were going to do it, and we're consumed with that. Meanwhile, I would read later, a state senator by the name of Barack Obama feels like he can't, why is he there? He can't get a credential, which I could have told him how to get a credential, but because elected officials usually do. He was a state senator. He would later write how he left the convention. I don't remember him being there, never saw him, and if I did, I'm busy with Michael Madigan and Gutierrez and people who one is up for a criminal trial. Why, a man who is going to give a major speech in a few nights was slinking off being there, all of which kind of shows how frustrating it is sometimes to be a journalist. I was right there next to somebody who's going to be president next day, and I didn't even see it. So we'll be on guard right now. But the point is, in 1996, by the way, we had all this without some of the drama we have now. Bill Clinton was here in a non-controversial primary in a country that was at peace, in a city that was run by Mayor Daley, and it was all very smooth. So, Tina, right now we have Harris going in kind of a strong position. What do you think this convention, what are the challenges she has in this convention?
I think people are starting to question her policies. Like, they need more specifics on her policies because she's gotten really good press. Tweets are very favorable. There's memes everywhere. It's very positive coverage. So I think people are going to want some more specifics. I think we've been seeing trickling of it this week. So I think people will be looking at her speech to see we need more policy views and more specifics to contrast to President Trump's. She's also going to be in Milwaukee on Tuesday. So she's going all around this week, as opposed to President Trump was sitting there, as Ashley said, in his astronaut walk every day, sitting there and watching the main speeches. She'll actually be traveling the country, and then we'll be around for her speech.
So one of the other things that these conventions are about are big donors, giving them thank yous through extraordinary access. So when you're watching the convention, you're going to look up in the 200 or 300 section, the skyboxes, you'll see the networks and their boxes, but in almost every other skybox, it's different donors of the Democratic groups, plus the thank you boxes for the host committee, corporate members, individuals, labor unions who have contributed to this. Just to give you a little inside peek, why the official headquarter hotels are the Marriott and the Hyatt at McCormick Place, the best hotels in towns are going to be what they call the donor hotels. And that are rooms where the people, $1 million plus, where they stay, they will have concierge service. There will be a desk where they will go in the morning to get their credentials. Now you might think, how do they get credentials and you don't? Well, because you give a lot of money. A lot of money does buy you access to a convention, and there are things called convention packages, such as going, if you're at a certain level, you will get a podium reveal tour over the weekend. You'll have special lunches. You'll have incredible access to elected officials. You will also find that when you talk about money and politics in a convention, it's not all just for president. If you're a lobbyist and you do most of your work in the state of Illinois, you're at the Illinois breakfast every day because those are the people who you want to influence. These are the receptions you helped underwrite. So, Tina, tell us a little bit about what you foresee going, and also every delegation meets in the morning, and we'll have some big-name Democratic speakers come, but what's really, take us inside what you think a Democratic Illinois breakfast will be.
I think there will be some big surprise speakers. I'm hearing some names that have not been confirmed, but they're big time for Monday. So it's around 8 a.m. Until 9:30 at the Delegate Hotel, and it'll be Monday through Thursday. We'll be there every day. And we also just question people coming in and out. So Senator Durbin, are you retiring? Who's going to be your replacement? So we create our own stories. It's not just the speeches that are happening. We are there to question politicians. We have access to them in maybe a more transparent way than usual. So we'll be doing that. We'll be focusing on the surprise speeches, the big time speeches. I think because I think Pritzker will try to get a lot of people to come to those events. Maybe not just local people, some national people as well. But yeah, we will be formulating some local stories based on the questions that we ask politicians there.
Right. So, so in Philadelphia, one memorable flashback I just had is that Chris Kennedy was there, and he was about to run for governor, and he thought he could just come in. He gave either a short speech, and then he left, and we all chased him. And I think I chased him into an elevator, or others were there, and all of a sudden that became, it wasn't a good one. His story looked like, he was being chased. So you may see stories that we do that have nothing to do with the convention. Okay, there may be some issue before the City Council, the Illinois General Assembly, or the Cook County Board, the DuPage County Board, that has nothing to do with anything, but because everybody is there, it's like, it's very exciting for people like me. And I think, oh my God, they're all here. You could talk to them. There's no one blocking you. There's no security in the way that somebody could say, I'm sorry, you can't talk to whoever. They're just there on it. And it is a rare opportunity, even aside from the convention, just to go up to people and talk to them about an issue that may have nothing to do with it. So if Natalie's at the Illinois breakfast and she's been trying to find Alderman Hoo-Ha or Commissioner Hoo-Ha, now there and say, hey, by the way, what are you doing on this? It's just a tremendous reporting opportunity here that you have. But I want to go back to some of what we might know about the outside on the protests. Tom, can you give us just maybe just a summary of what you think, especially, we're talking at a time where the ceasefire has not happened. There may be a war with Iran. We have Ukraine invading Russia. Even though we're going into a convention in a time of almost giddy euphoria for the Democrats, there is a cloud hanging over it. And I think the idea that the war in Gaza is still unresolved, and there may be even worse fighting going on, how do you think this might impact what the protests may be? And the main ones are the pro-Palestinian groups, aren't they?
Yeah, those are the main ones. I mean, we've seen protests in Chicago for the last 10 months, people calling for an end to the war in Gaza, essentially. In Cook County, we have the largest Palestinian population of any county in the United States. People have shown out week after week after week. And as we saw in Michigan with people choosing not to vote in the Democratic primary, you have real anger at Joe Biden and kind of the lack of will to stand up, I think, in the view of Palestinians, to Netanyahu and the Israelis, and to continue supplying arms to them. And so that's what people are going to be out making noise about. They're trying to get through to what could be the next president, Kamala Harris, to say, hey, these are essentially our demands. And they've been their demands. So we will see a lot of it. The largest protest groups have said there's likely going to be about 25,000 people in these large marches. There's going to be other marches throughout the week. There's probably going to be some agitation, these groups, going to other places, possibly showing up to these delegate hotels where these rich people are getting their concierge service. And
those aren't the delegate hotels. They're
oh, excuse me.
Those are 8 hotels in the Loop. I'm talking about the 5-star hotels, which they could go to too. I mean, it's no secret where the hotels are in Chicago. But is there still litigation going on right now? What's the status of that?
There is still litigation going on. I mean, there's going to be another hearing in federal court tomorrow. This is about having speakers and podiums and things like that. There's been different battles in federal court about routes and, again, with these pro-Palestinian groups getting within sight and sound of the United Center.
So how close will from what you know, the routes, nothing is close to, I mean, are we talking about a half mile away about?
Within blocks.
Oh, it is that. Oh, so, okay, so delegates may see it. Now, basically for the delegate experience, they will have buses. You know, if you have any kind of pass, you could use shuttle buses getting around McCormick Place and United Center on that. There's one, and they will be running the route, so they may or may not be impacted by protesters. You know, one of the things with social media and what we had known, it's one thing to have a permit. Some people may be willing to just gather without a permit. And is that likely?
Oh, absolutely. It's certainly likely. I mean, you know, we lived through 2020, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, Ashley and I, for example, spent a whole day following some pretty violent protests. And at night, we had to rush to Bucktown because people started looting stores. And we said this can't be true. And we got there, and Ashley captured it with her camera. Right. You know, so, yeah, I mean, in that year, we saw these protests pop up one after the other, and in a lot of cases they were reactionary, right? Mm-hmm. You would have a protest that was planned, and there would be some degree of police violence or some conflict or something caught on camera, and that would spur another protest, right? Like right after it in a different location, and it was kind of a bit of a whack-a-mole game, I think, for the police department. But yeah, so possibly that could happen again.
So in a convention day, it starts with delegate meetings. There are maybe 100 events going on around the city, from special interest groups, labor, corporations, feminist groups, I mean, symposiums, universities are having panels, all over the place. And some of these may be open to the public, so I would just do a little research, Googling around. Some you have to pay a little bit, some is a donation, so just be aware if you want to go to some of these things. But there are a lot of activities downtown that may be something you could access, but I'll tell you, there's dozens. Now, one thing I may try and do is, now you think I'm serious all the time, right, everybody? I want to go, Julia Louise-Dreyfus is going to moderate a panel. This is under the auspices of the Democratic Governors Association with 8 female governors. So, okay, this is a tell on myself. I am a fan of Julia Louise-Dreyfus. So maybe under the call of duty and as a sacrifice,
me at John Legend. It's the call of duty that I have to go see him.
And I hope my editors appreciate what I may say. I will volunteer to be the one to cover that. And I will take that sometime slot because, you know, I'll leave the PPE to you. But another thing, in terms of entertainers, there's a powerful association called the Creative Coalition in town. It's actors. They're doing a variety of things. There are concerts at night. I mean, Legend is one we've been talking about with blues bars. There is a closed event. It's Tuesday or Wednesday that Durbin and Tchaikovsky and Duckworth are doing, and Quigley at Wrigley Field, which is a walkthrough. You know, this has to do mainly with donors. It's private, but delegates have cool experiences available to them during the daytime, as well as experiencing all the riches of Chicago. One of the things that makes Chicago an ideal convention city is that everybody is staying in hotels downtown. In Milwaukee, some of the delegates stayed as far away as Madison and Sheboygan. So that really changes your day when you know you're there. I mean, to stay at a downtown hotel and you could be walking distance from all these significant things. So I just have a question, whoever wants to jump in. Trump Tower, Chicago, Wacker and the River. Do you think there'll be anybody around doing anything there?
Well, the My Pillow guy is going to be here all week, so I assume that's where he'll be getting going.
You all know when we say the My Pillow, this is one of the biggest Trump supporters around. So we'll see. Maybe we should station someone in the bar at Trump Tower.
I don't think that's his drug of choice, but.
Sure. But in all seriousness, When I think of where people may go to make statements, that seems like one that would be powerful. Now, we're having a great conversation here, but we want to hear from you out there and from our people in the audience. So if there are some questions that people have, hold up your cards, and there are some here. So let me take a moment. Okay. Hold on. Now, okay, here's the, okay, Tom, I think this may be from you. This is from one of our people on our chat. Will the protesters who have places to march, will they be blocking any streets to hospitals or other emergency service areas? How will that work out?
I think they've negotiated the routes around that. They have specific parade routes that were negotiated in federal court. The day before, it goes down Michigan Avenue. The other days, it goes from Union Park and kind of winds around and goes back to Union Park. So I don't think so, but it may impact the medical district over there in some ways.
Yeah, our colleague Christian Schorsch, if people are interested in following up on that, also did a story looking at just how hospitals are all preparing and all the contingency plans and how they're trying to staff. And so it is something that, yeah, I think they're planning for just in case anything happens.
Natalie, maybe you could take this question from one of the people in the audience. What do you think will happen with migrants? Will Texas be shipping busloads to Chicago?
That's a really good question because we were preparing, as well as the city. We thought there were going to be lots of bus loads of migrants, and they have not arrived. I don't know if that means they're coming on Monday, but as of now, even the city is walking back the expectations. So that's where we are right now.
So who would like to take this? Will there be MAGA demonstrators? Who? I'm not informed on this thing. Tom, what do you think?
I don't know if it's MAGA specifically, but I think the Illinois Policy Institute is doing a protest on Friday or on Monday night. Again, Mike Lindell, I was not joking, is doing like a 4-day event, election denial event. They haven't announced the location. Some other MAGA people have said they're coming. Forgiato Blow, a MAGA rapper who is associated with the Proud Boys. But I don't know anyone else.
I think that I don't think that I've ever covered a protest or a demonstration of like this size that counter protesters didn't show up to. There were counter protesters at the women's marches, the reopen rallies. When people are showing up largely for unifying, like tens of thousands of people for one cause, people are inclined to show up to argue with them, from what I've seen.
So here's a question I'm going to take. How will the convention sites, United Center and McCormick Place, affect your ability to provide coverage? Does this complicate things? I think the technical term is it's a pain in the to have these places so far away. Okay? It's not. It's just a time, it eats up time. In Milwaukee, actually, technically, everything, no matter your politics, I appreciate a convention where everything is in a compact place. So you could get from Fisher Forum, where the main night activities were, to what was our filing center and another building where there were places for us to workspace. It was all just a block away. The schlep factor, schlep being a technical term, here is enormous. So I will have to make like a decision. If I go to McCormick Place, do I go back to United Center? Do I go downtown? My thought is if I get up early enough, I would like to swing by the Illinois Delegation Hotel just to see what, because I'll be doing a newsletter in addition to my column. And so I may be looking for things or whatever, tips, whatever, but I think I will plant myself at 9 o'clock every day at the convention headquarters hotel to go to the press conference that the Harris campaign and the host committee and everybody is running, because I want to find out the latest on whatever controversy may be happening, what's the latest lineup on the speakers. But then I do have a choice. Do I want to hang around there and look at the activities in McCormick Place? Maybe no. Or am I going to go, to downtown for an activity? Yes, to the Veep thing. But then I have to make time to get to the United Center, which is all going to take time. So one of the hardest thing, I think, in covering a convention is time management. You cannot just at the last minute often decide to do something. So let me...
You have to wear good shoes.
Yeah, this is it, the shoes. Okay, question. How will the Gaza protests be made visible to convention attendees? They're being kept away from the center, so how will those voices be heard? Who would like to take that?
Well, I mean, we've seen at Kamala rallies recently, protesters getting in and shouting, and her initial response was kind of like, shut up, I'm speaking, and then it seemed like she got some notes, and the next time, and was a little more sympathetic to the cause. Who knows? Can someone get in and unfurl a banner, or what would prevent someone from signing up as a volunteer?
There are 30 uncommitted delegates, and you are checked going in. Maybe if you have, they're checking mainly for things other than cloth banners that may be in your backpack or just your bag. You can't, reporters could bring backpacks in, but most people can't. So people have scarves, people have scarves. They have things. So a banner isn't there. So, but these are delegates. This is not just a bunch of strangers. These are people that are going to be there to help support Harris. And that means that you may see what you saw in some of the Harris events right now. People have their say once, maybe twice, and then with the help of a supportive crowd, it somehow enables the speaker, whoever it may be, to move on. So here's a question that no one knows better than Tina. Are you ready for your question? How will a reporter's day look like? What time are you up? Where are you eating? And when, Tina, do you actually go to bed? I kind of know some of these answers.
She does not like the answers to this.
I know the answers.
Yeah.
And she knows I know, but I want to hear what she says.
Okay, waking up at 5:30 or 6 a.m. or so for the breakfast, go to the breakfast, do stories. We huddled in the hotel and we wrote a bunch of stories for a blog. Then I required everyone to eat lunch. Like, please go eat lunch, like sit down, eat lunch, because you may never have a sit-down meal the rest of the day. And then we went downtown to go to the arena, did all that. Then we went to the CNN grill and we ate food, and I stayed out very late. And so I slept for probably like 4 hours a night. But it was worth it. It was sourcing, it was meeting people. I was like very on adrenaline and very focused. So she thinks that I didn't sleep enough, but I think I can do 4 hours a night for a couple of nights. I'm an 8 hours a night sleeper otherwise, so I'm just gonna go right into it.
I can say when it came time for me to do my expense report for the RNC, I was going through my receipts and I was like, I didn't eat for 4 days.
We didn't.
It
We
was
really
just
didn't eat.
it was just sodas and water. Like I was just like caffeine, sugar, water. Caffeine, sugar,
I
water.
was telling
just
Tessa the Diet Cokes at the arena.
Yeah.
Just a lot of Diet Cokes.
Yeah, like there was a surprising lack of real
And
sustenance.
maybe 25,000 steps a day.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it being kind of, like Lynn said, the perimeter was pretty concentrated, but you're just going back and forth. And this will be even more so, I think.
Yes. Who wants to take this one? What do you think will be the defining moment of this year's convention? I'm going to pick one unless somebody speaks up.
Beyonce. No, I'm joking. I think it has to be Kamala's speech. It's going to be really scrutinized. She has to do it right. She has to deliver. She has to deliver specifics. I think people will be picking it apart. It will determine whether her trajectory continues to go up.
Natalie, what do you think?
I was going to say the same thing. I think that's the big night people are waiting for. It's the historic moment. It's why people are coming to town who maybe weren't coming to town. So, yeah, I think all eyes that, is the honeymoon going to be over, or is it going to continue with all these bright smiles on the Harris Walls ticket?
Tom?
Well, I think in 68, the defining moment wasn't like inside the convention site, right? But in 96, we didn't really have any issues with protesting and unrest and stuff. So, and then it was like the Macarena that year, right? Like Hillary doing the Macarena. I don't know, maybe if Kamala finally bows to pressure and has to answer some questions unscripted, I think that may be a more defining moment than prepared remarks ultimately, because that seems to be
delivering some part of her economic plan coming. Question is, we're going to wrap this up soon. What parts of Chicago will Kamala visit? Will the vice president visit during the convention? Here is my guess. There may be unplanned stops that her press pool will cover, but it's not like she's going to go out to eat every night, with nothing else to do. One of the things she did a few years ago, and I was in a poll then, she does like to stop at small businesses, especially women-owned, especially in Black and brown communities. And we stopped, she was doing a vaccine event, 2021 maybe, and we stopped at Brown Sugar Bakery. She bought some German chocolate cake. So I wouldn't put it past, if there's time, to go out and do something in the city, because that's been a theme of the convention planners, is to bring the convention to the city. And they've had events through the year in the 77 community areas, and that was their outreach. But so I wouldn't be surprised if there's something that she does, but it would be not parts of Chicago, plural. I would think there might be one stop, maybe just to make the point that she is trying to do something with the city on this. So we are at the end of our Democratic Convention preview, a little bit of a sneak peek into what may be the history-making days ahead. I want to thank our wonderful panel, Ashley, Tom, Natalie, Tessa, and Tina. On behalf of WBEZ and the Chicago Sun-Times members and supporters, if we didn't have you out there, we wouldn't be out there for you. If you were not there for us, we could not be here for you. So thank you very, very much. And everybody, see you later.